Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is definitely an interesting one. Definitely a pretty crazy one. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's just get into it. All right. So today's story time is about one of the most brutal fights slash things in general I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. This all takes place when I was in 10th grade in high school. I was sitting in my room one night. It was actually summer vacation. So I guess technically I wasn't in 10th grade anymore. I was like between 10th and 11th. But, I'm just going to say 10th grade. So I was in my room, just sitting there doing nothing. I was laying down. I think it was like 5 p.m. It was a Saturday night. I had no plans. Nobody hit me up to do anything. And I was kind of happy about that. I was kind of going crazy the whole week before, just hanging out with homies every day and playing a bunch of games and spending way too much time outside of my actual house that I kind of just missed home. So yeah, when I was home in my bed that night, I was kind of excited to just chill all night and do nothing. And then of course, right after I got excited about doing nothing, I get a phone call from none other than my friend Nick. Okay, my buddy Nicholas hit me up and he's like, yo, what's up, Austin? I'm like, what's up, Nicholas the Third? How you doing, dude? He's like, pretty good, pretty good. What are you up to tonight? I'm like, nothing, dude. He's like, you want to come with me to this party? I'm like, whose party? He's like, oh, my sister's. Now, I did not know Nick's sister at all. Never met her a day in my life. Anytime me and Nick would hang out, it was at my house or his house, but she was never there. She actually had her own apartment because she was a few years older than Nick. She actually had her own house because she was a few years older than Nick. So, I kind of didn't want to go, but I was like, you know what, man? Yeah, why not? He's like, bet. So, like, an hour later, Nick pulled up to my house, picked me up, and we went over to his sister's house. And upon arriving, I quickly learned that Nick's sister does not fuck around. This girl had a huge party going on with a bunch of people. Me and Nick were the youngest ones there. And it was actually really, really, like, fun. And everyone there was really nice to us. And shit was going great, right? Well, about an hour into it, this one guy arrived, okay? We'll just call him Sir Dickhead the Third, okay? So Sir Dickhead the Third arrived to this party. He was about 6'2", pretty built guy. Definitely, like, not someone that I would try and fight, to say the least. And his personality was unbearable. Like, literally the first thing this dude does when he walks into the party is screams out, "Ladies and gentlemen, the entertainment has arrived." Cringiest shit I've ever heard in my life. I remember looking at Nick and we were like, oh, dude. Anyway, no one made a sound when he said that. Nobody gave a fuck. I guess nobody really liked that guy because he was just always an asshole to everybody, no matter what. And the more and more I asked around about him, the more and more I heard how much of a dickhead he was. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, if he's such a dick, why invite him? And Nick told me that I guess he's like boyfriends with one of his sister's best friends, so he kind of has to get invited or else he'll throw a fit and just, be a little bitch about everything. So yeah, they had to invite him kind of against their will in a way. Anyway, he got there. About 30 minutes in him being there, he was just being a dick. He was taking shots, getting belligerently drunk and like yelling out and screaming and just making the party not fun. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with taking a couple shots and having fun at a party when you're an adult, but he was like already belligerently drunk within 30 minutes of being there. If I had to guess, he had probably just came from a different party and was already drinking, so that's why he got so drunk so quick, because he was already halfway there. And yeah, that was my guess, right? Well, about 5-10 minutes later, at this point, he's still screaming around, yelling at people, just making a scene. At one point, he got on top of one of the tables and was dancing. It was just very, very, like, cringe. But then he ended up standing on top of the kitchen counter and started dancing on there and screaming the words of the song that was playing. And Nick's sister, the girl whose party it was, yelled back to him and said, "Hey, get off my counter." And he goes, "Ooh, the big bad wolf is here to stop me." And she goes, "No, just get off my counter. You're going to fuck it up. I just had it redone a couple of weeks ago. Like, just get off of it." And he goes, "How about no?" And he starts jumping up and down on her counter, like purposely trying to fuck it up, right? And she goes, "If you don't get off that counter, I'm going to beat the shit out of you." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sure you are." And then he like bends down, like face to face with her and goes, "Listen, I know you don't like me, but you know what? Tough shit. I'm dating your best friend, and I'm dancing on your counter, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it." And after he says that, he slaps her on the head. Like, not super hard, but it still was a dick thing to do. And Nick's older sister, this is when I learned to be afraid of that motherfucker. She grabs him by the ankles and just pulls him off the counter, like, back first, and he slams his neck and his head on the counter and falls to the kitchen floor. And she lets him get up, right? Like, she doesn't keep hitting him, doesn't keep messing with him. She lets him get up, and he starts swinging on her, which is just a whole other level of fucking insane. But she's, like, dodging him and swinging back and landing punches. And without going into too much detail, because it gets a little bit graphic, Nick's older sister beat the fuck out of this guy. Like, there was a clear winner in this fight. And I've seen quite a lot of fights throughout my life, throughout high school, throughout just my adult life, living in LA, everywhere, right? This had to be the number one most crazy, like, brutal one I've ever seen in my life. It ended up ending by everyone pulling her off of him because she beat him up so bad. People at the party actually felt bad for this guy because how bad he lost that fight. Don't get me wrong, the dude wasn't dead. The dude didn't have brain damage. He didn't, get severely injured, but he was close. I'd say he was near severely injured. This guy definitely got his ass beat. Definitely had a little bit of a bloody nose, a little bit of a busted lip, and by little I mean a lot. And he didn't look very good, and he almost got knocked out. But anyway, the fight got broken up. He got escorted out of the house. She got escorted out to the back. Her friends took her in the backyard to, like, talk to her and make sure she was okay, and his friends took him out to the front to make sure he was okay, and then he left because, he was no longer allowed at her house. She kicked him out in a very forcible way. And yeah, his friends took him home. They all left, which was kind of a relief because he definitely came in and just fucked the whole vibe up. And she came back inside and apologized to everybody for, kind of contributing to the party becoming so shitty. And we were all like, oh, it's okay, no worries. And then after this, the party just kind of resumed as normal. And I looked over at Nick and I was like, yo, your sister is insane. He goes, dude, I know. That's why I never fought her growing up. Like, you know how, like, siblings fight? I wouldn't fuck with her. She's like a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some shit. And I was like, are you kidding? He's like, no, dude. She's been doing it since she was a kid. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Anyway, the story doesn't end there, okay? So the rest of that party was pretty normal. Everything was good after that. The next morning rolled around. Me and Nick both woke up in the living room. We spent the night in his sister's house. And his sister was making us breakfast, right? And we both sat down at the table, and his sister was making, like, a lot of food. Like, way more for than just 3 people, right? Like, it looked like she was making food for, like, 5 or 6 people, right? So I asked her, I was like, you're making a lot of food. Like, who's it all for? She goes, oh, Mandy and her boyfriend are coming over. Mandy was the girl who was dating that guy that she beat up. So me and Nick kind of look at each other like, what? And I look back at her, and I was like, wait, Mandy is in the girl that's dating that guy whose ass got kicked last night by you? And she goes, yeah, he's coming too. And I go, are you sure that's a good idea? She goes, yeah. And listen, I want to talk to you guys about last night. I am so sorry you had to see that, and I am so sorry I stooped to his level and did that. That was just so unlike me. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I get it. I understand. She's like, no, like, really, he didn't do anything to deserve that much of a beating. That was not okay. And she kind of had a point. I mean, even though he was being a dickhead and kind of deserved a little bit of scolding and maybe getting kicked out of the party, like, she fucking beat this dude's ass. And she probably nearly, like, really fucked him up when she threw him off that counter. Like, she grabbed him by the ankles and, like, pulled him off, and he hit his neck, like, right on the, like, the edge of the counter. And that could have seriously fucked him up. He could have gotten paralyzed or worse. But anyway, a couple minutes later, they showed up. This guy shows up, and he does not look any better than the night before. He looks so fucked up. And I gotta say, sober, he was actually a pretty cool dude. He came in, he said hi to everyone. I told him that we already met, but he probably didn't remember that. And he was like, yeah, you're right, man, I don't. And he was actually really nice. And the first thing he said to us was that he was sorry about last night. And we're like, nah, man, don't worry, it's all good. And him and Nick's sister made up. They both apologized to each other, made amends. Because, they were going to have to see each other in the future anyway, because Nick's sister's friend, Mandy, was dating this guy. So she was going to bring him around, so may as well be friendly with him. But also, I think Nick's sister just genuinely felt bad and knew how much worse it could have gone. and the fact that it had already gotten that bad, I think she just didn't feel good about it. And yeah, they made amends, and they were actually really, really cool after that. And I think it really just came down to one thing, like one thing that really helped make this problem so much worse than it needed to be: alcohol. They were both hammered. They were both drunk. And that's what happens. If you get alcohol in your system, you would become somebody you're not. I guarantee if they were both high on weed, this wouldn't have happened. All right, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, they kind of just made up, and every party from that point forward, he didn't get super drunk, neither did she, or they just wouldn't go to each other's parties, and everything was good after that, from what I know. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
I be fully loaded, I be whipping foreign cars. Always stay devoted, mama knew I'd be a star. Now I'm steady flowing, feeling like I'm high as Mars. I'ma keep on going, I'ma always raise the bar. Told me I could not